Hi, good morning. My name is Tomomi Imura. And here I'm going to talk about this nebula of Firefox and the Space Cat. Oh, no, actually, I'm not going to talk about that. So I'm going to talk about the browsers, and especially for mobile browsers, or I would say browsers running on smartphones. So yes, I've been working in the mobile industry. So I just joined a company called PubNub in San Francisco. But before that, I've been actually working at the mobile industry quite a while. So I was at Nokia before. Now it's Microsoft took it over. And before I was I was a developer for WebOS, which was trashed by HP. So everything I do is actually just gone away, sadly. Oh, not everything actually. So a long time ago, it's like before iPhone era. That seems to be a long time, when nobody, at least nobody in this country have ever browsed a web on mobile phone. Well, I can't say nobody, but only like geeks like me. So back in the time, like that was like 2007, I guess. That was like before iPhone, I think. So even Google didn't know what to do with mobile. They didn't really had I can't say they didn't have a clear vision, but they didn't do anything with web. They didn't believe in the mobile web, I guess. So they had this physical service called Google 411. So basically you have to dial in, like physically call in the number to get information. That time I was actually Yahoo. We were creating mobile search earlier, like before Google did. I don't know if this number is working now, though. I haven't tried for years. You should try, or maybe not. So now, those days are over. Now we can embrace, all that HTML5 and JavaScript on the mobile phones, luckily. So this is a table, a mobile browser release table I have created. Okay, let's see. So yes, a lot of things have happened last year and actually happening this year. It's really, for the mobile, everything goes in lightning speed. So that's why I used some space cat image in the beginning. So everything goes quick. And there's a lot of remarkable things happened in 2013, last year. So actually, the one thing I like to mention was Chrome. So before Chrome came out, Chrome was released for Android. We had this Android stock browsers, right? That was like IE for mobile, or I would say IE6 for mobile or something. We hated work on Android browsers because they sucked. So when the first ever browser, Chrome browser came on Android was 18, that was sort of experimental, I believe, because Google haven't released anything like like a next version, which was 25 until a while. So that time I was working on some mobile project, and I was really frustrated because so many things weren't working right in Chrome 18, and I didn't see any, update for a long time. So I kept bugging guys in Google. But anyway, the great thing is after 25, there's a constant release, and they're releasing one every month or so. So 25 is the first beta version as well. So now they're always releasing beta for mobile as well. They have a dev version for desktop. They don't have a dev build or Chromium and Canary, but they have a beta for Android. And another important thing, another a thing happened last year was Blink. So Chrome, the Google's Chrome team had announced that they were separating from Apple's WebKit team, actual WebKit team, because they decided to fork WebKit to Blink. So that was last April, and the first Blink-based Chrome came out on last July, which was 28. Then Opera followed. Actually, Opera have announced that before Blink happened, so they did release a WebKit version of Opera, which was version 14. Then, Google have decided to go on Blink, so they decided to, switch to Blink as well. So they're now, those Opera releases are pretty much same with Chrome. So everything works on Chrome, pretty much works. I don't say everything, but those browsers pretty similar now. And feature-wise, API-wise, something that interested me was in IndexedDB. So that was async local storage, actually WebDB, I would say, introduced as a web standard now. So there's a little bit of history, well, politics. There used to be something called WebSQL as a W3C standard, but they have decided to deprecate it. But the WebSQL was actually backed by Apple. They are like really huge support. They supported WebSQL. So when it was deprecated and switched over to IndexedDB, promoted IndexedDB as a standard, Firefox picked up quick. So they was the first, early adopter. Then IE10 followed that too. And of course, Chrome did too, but, was sort of broken-ish. Well, I would say they're using old specifications for a while, so they finally landed like sort of stable one after 25. Then Opera started supporting after 15. So actually, I honestly was really, like suspicious. Oh, I know it's suspicious and stuff, but I wasn't really sure if what Apple is going to ever support IndexedDB. But apparently they will. They do now. So it landed in Safari 8, which was great. And now Speedy support, looks like, Speedy support came to all major browsers as well. And for CSS-wise, CSS3 Flexbox, it's now, looks like it's finally ready. I've been waiting this for like 5 years because, specifications being, like rewritten, like, it's been changing all the time. And now it's finally have something. And it's been, looks like supported. It came to IE11 finally too. So that would be great for, responsive web design and such, I believe. So we don't, no one likes to use like float and all those crazy CSS tricks to create a layout, right? And ECMAScript standard. So yes, this is really happening this year. So beginning of this year, the promises came to Chrome and Opera, followed by Firefox, and all those other two. Now Chrome 36 and Opera 23 has now object observe. So data binding. And another trend was flat icons. It's not important, but anyways. Actually, Chrome did it first. It's ever before, Apple and IE. Windows go Metro or whatever they call it officially. I still call it Metro. And it's some interesting thing just happened like last month. So according to this stat counter, now it looks like a Chrome usage, exceed everything else. So now it looks like Chrome is the most popular browser. That's kind of interesting. Yeah, I know it's hard to read, sorry. And I'm not sure about the big spike in Opera in the middle, maybe the mistake, it's kind of weird. But the important thing here is just simple. I don't know if it's important, but I'm just saying now Chrome is the most popular one. Oh, I don't work for Google. It's not like I tried to promote anything, but anyways. So disrupt App Store. So as a web dev, people keep telling me that like, oh, why don't you develop for iOS and Android, native is better, blah, blah, blah. I'm kind of sick of hearing this, right? So I'm not gonna, just do this argument here and such. But it's cool thing about web is, no one, tells you when you can release, or maybe your boss does, but it's not like you need approval from Apple or anybody, right? So the cool thing was when the Flappy Bird came out in the App Store, and maybe like a few days later, that author decided to pull it off, right? And the people freaked out. It's like, oh my gosh, on a Flappy Bird. And then somebody wrote it as a web app and just released it. I don't know about legal things, but anyway, somebody did it. And another cool thing was 2048. So that was a web app, and it was hosted on GitHub page. And it was really popular, and I was hooked on it, and I've been playing that too. And the cool thing about those web apps, not just, and no one tells you, when you can release and such. If it's open source, if your apps are open source, it's even better because people can fork your apps and create something more interesting, like Dodge, right? Like a floppy Doge, and Doge 2048. That's awesome. And sometimes, you're being more creative, or you just wanted to have both Flappy Bird and 2048, and you start creating something like this. So this can happen in the web world easily. I suck, I know. I'm not good at it, really. Yeah. So I've been talking about mobile. You might wonder why I discriminate mobile from the rest of the web. I mean, web's web, right? Yeah, it is. So it's not like I'm discriminating or try to separate it out like it used to be, like, m dot whatever URL. I'm just saying that mobile has really interesting things like hardware access. You can access mobile hardware by using JavaScript. So there are like the variety of hardware comes with your smartphones, right? Those ones. So of course, there are APIs for this, like geolocation API can access GPS. Well, actually, geolocation API is smarter than that. So even if your device, such as computer, MacBook and stuff, doesn't come with real GPS, but you can still get the location by using like assisted GPS for some phones, or IP, like Wi-Fi station and such, or cell tower too. And camera, video, and microphones can be accessed by some, like more than a few APIs, like including WebRTC. And there's a web audio API as well. And of course, there's vibration APIs and battery APIs to tell how much battery left in your phone or if it's charging. And there's NFC. I don't think anyone has done it yet, but there's a proposal about NFC access as well. And sensors. So mobile phone comes with a variety of sensors, like accelerometer, like a magnetometer, like the compass, and gyro, and light, proximity, and pressure. So a while ago, I wrote a blog post about, ambient light API. So that actual blog post was about responsive web, but it's not like, unlike regular responsive design, which is responsive to dimension, not dimension, it's more like resolution of the screen. But instead, I, try to write demo that, the web page is responsive to light, like environmental light. So let's say when the room is dark, get the UI with darker background and such. So I don't think it's really practical, but as a demo, I just wrote it. It was working nice. It's kind of cool. So I guess it was like Reddit worthy. So people loved it. I got a lot of access. It was kind of cool. And there's approximately API as well. So that what it is that detects a distance in between a device and some nearby object like your ear and such. And apparently it's supported by Firefox already. Oops. So it's interesting. And pressure sensor may be coming soon too. So they are not quite ready, but some of the stuff is already ready. So there are a lot of use cases, interesting use cases using those hardware APIs. This is one of those I wrote. I didn't take much time to write this. So it's called a Sushi Compass. But basically, what it does is it gets your location and tells you a nearby sushi restaurant. Yeah. That's actually, I ripped off from the Pizza Compass, which was an iOS app. And I thought I could do it on the web, so I did it. Thanks. Yeah. So I use a Foursquare and a Google Maps API for this too. So last year, I did this project, not the Sushi Compass, the other project. I did this camera project with W3C. Actually, W3C is a community group called the Core Mobile Platform CG. Now they changed the name to Web and Mobile. But I have created this web app. Basically, that's Instagram clone and running in the web. We just didn't want to call it Instagram, whatever, Insta web or something, because one of that person I was working with actually was working at Facebook, so I didn't want to give him trouble. Yeah. So the project goals was about showcasing the capability of the web platform. like, like use cases, showing the use cases and educate web developers by, just using some APIs, or maybe some of the APIs really obscure and you might not know. So just tell people, yeah, you can do this and that by using such. So I'm going to talk about it. And help improve browsers. So I'm not working for any browser vendors, but by just writing this demo, and I can, tell everybody, all those browser vendors what it's not working, what's buggy, or the certain feature might be working but not exactly following the specification correctly. So that actually worked pretty nicely. Fortunately, I do know many people who are working for the browser vendors, so I could talk to them directly. So this actually worked pretty nicely. So this was a demo. Again, this is just nothing more than Instagram clone, so that's pretty much the same thing. Not the same thing, but let's see. So by just pressing a button, it opens up the camera. Again, this is running in a browser, but you can access camera by using browser. And applying the filter effect. And I'm using this WebDB, actually it's IndexedDB to store locally. I know I don't have to store this locally, but again, I wanted to just showcase by using many web APIs as possible, so I did. It's a little sluggish. And that's a touch events using like a carousel effects that takes touch events. And using XHR2 over cores to send that photos to the server. So that was about it. So they are the APIs, like HTML5 and JavaScript APIs I've used for this app. So I'm gonna go over a little bit. So the HTML media capture, it's actually, this is not even JavaScript. It's just nothing more than that input element. So that's one of the obscure APIs or things that feature that many web devs don't know, or maybe everybody knows by now, but back in the time it was kind of new, or just simply no one knew. All you do is just add in accept an attribute here. So now you can take, basically delegate a native camera from the browser. And it has great browser support by now. So IE10 on a mobile, IE10 have implemented this feature, but it wasn't working on mobile phones, but now it's working wonderfully on IE11. And I use a file API to get the camera, like a photo, to return as a file object here. So by using this, you can just append this object into DOM. But actually for this app, what I did was I take this whole, the .url into the canvas because I wanted to manipulate each pixel to give it, some nice filter effects, right? So you might ask why I use Canvas, not CSS3, right? Because CSS3 now has a filter. And you can just do the same thing, like, add in sepia tone or maybe some, some black and white could be in a fancy effects. But the thing is, CSS gives only like a visual treatment. It does not alter the image itself. So it just look like, so in this case, because I wanted to, save this altered image or send it to somewhere, so I needed to actually alter the image itself. So I use Canvas, so I can manipulate, information like RG, B, and A. Well, I didn't use A, it's alpha, just RGB to manipulate, just alter or tweaking around. So basically that's what I did. And an IndexedDB. So I use IndexedDB to store these photos, like altered photos locally. So again, this is an async operation, unlike other local storage. And the support is, yes, it's coming. So I said earlier, when I started this project, the support was not really great, but now it looks like supported by all major browsers, and it's coming to Safari. And cool thing about, so when I was developing, I was using Chrome because it comes with a good web inspector, I mean the dev tools, right? So I could inspect IndexedDB in Chrome. That's cool. And I just learned like a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, or maybe a week ago, the same things landed in Mozilla too, in the Firefox too. It's actually not in a stable version of Firefox. It just landed in Aurora. I haven't tried that yet, so I just took this screenshot from Mozilla.org. Actually, yeah, Mozilla's developer network. And there's XHR2. So the cool thing is, yeah, you can, send, receive the blob, like object. And it's actually not new things because, though the major browsers are already being supported. And a touch event, I said version 1 here. So that's a little touchy subject here because there's some drama going on to make the touch event standardized. And there was some patent issue from Apple. And W3C initially wanted to make it standard, but it couldn't. But maybe the patent issue, like a legal thing, might have been sorted. But there's another issue. Because when you're writing apps and using touch events, well, you have to write mouse events as well, right? Unless you only want to support it mobile, like a touch screen, I meant. So if you want to support for your desktop app, you have to use a mouse in a mouse event as well, which is kind of annoying. You have to implement both. So Microsoft came and gave this idea about point events. It takes care of everything, so you don't have to separate, touch from mouse. And it gets any input devices is in touch, mouse, pen, and Kinect, and all other crazy stuff. And I was like, yeah, that's cool, It would be really nice. As a web dev, we don't have to worry about everything. It's just one thing to take care of. So a Chrome team agreed with it initially. Said, yes, we're going to support that. And Opera, Firefox, Mozilla, guys on Mozilla, same thing. But like last month, the end of the last month, all of a sudden, like Chrome team changed their mind. So that was my rant. So it's on Twitter. Yes, I shouldn't be wasting my time reading Hacker News, right? But I just read this. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm like, they're not going to support point events. And I didn't use it, but I had a friend working at Google's actual Polymer team mentioned about, because he was writing polyfill for the Polymer, but apparently, they took it off. Actually, they didn't took it out, but changed the name or something. So I kind of mentioned in my own tweet. Then my friend Estelle is like, no! So Tab Atkins responded, Tab, okay, I'm naming here, but it's not like I tried to talk shit about him or anything. He's a great guy. So just don't tell him I was talking behind. But so he responded. He works at Google, responsible for this Chrome team. So he responded. I'm saying, it's like, yeah, we're trying to align, right? And he was saying, because Microsoft have agreed to implement touch events for IE 11. So there's a little history. So, of course, all those things I was talking about, Microsoft guys intentionally didn't, implement the touch events for IE10. And of course, what happened was many developers didn't know about or didn't care. Well, yes, it's IE, right? And especially IE for mobile. Who's using a Windows phone, right? All right. Okay, I used to be working for Nokia, so I know. That's a great camera. So anyways, developers didn't care or didn't know more like, so things failed. Also, many great web apps totally failed on IE. That's sad. So it's actually a great thing they decided to support for IE 11. But there's a miscommunication because that does not mean Microsoft have given up on point events, right? But that's what probably he thought. So it's like, okay, so now I use stitching and point events over for touch events. And here's Jacob from Microsoft responded. Basically, he's saying, no, that's not true, right? So they're not abandoning point events. And he's saying Firefox guys wouldn't agree with the Google guys. I'm like, oh my gosh, Like, again, I don't work for those companies. So I'm like, it's just one dev. I'm like, I just want one standard. Just give me one, Anyway, so now it's still going on. It just happened. This conversation just happened. So I honestly don't know the future of point events. Sad. I personally really support it. Anyways, so for to-do list for the camera app, what I want to do soon is, it doesn't have our offline support because Jake Archibald said app cache is a douchebag. If you haven't read his article, it definitely should just search now and read it. So it's true. But now the Google start adding the service workers, and as soon as other browsers support it, I want to use this. And for UIs, have a web components. That would be cool things to support now. Oops. So I've been talking about a lot of new stuff. It's been there or haven't been there, or I don't know what's going on. Or you can always keep up to the date by looking at those chromestatus.com. It's from Chrome team, so it's all talking about which features supported we're going to. And Microsoft has similar things. It's pretty UI. And this is status.modern.ie. All right, so I think I'm going over time. So thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of the conference.